The mechanics of collapse. Chapter 1. Context. The global health and aid architecture is not a natural phenomenon. It did not grow like a forest, it was built like a machine. For over 7 decades, the primary engine of this machine has been the United States. This is a statement of scale, not a statement of politics. Whether through the direct logistics of USAID or the coordinated standards of the World Health Organization, U.S. funding acts as a structural mortar between the bricks of global stability. In this analysis, we are not looking at the morality of aid, we are looking at the mechanics of systems. What happens when you remove the primary pillar of a complex, interdependent structure? To understand the end, we must first understand the function.
Chapter 2. What USAID actually does. When we hear about foreign aid, the mind often drifts to headlines of charity or diplomatic gestures. But the reality is far more industrial. USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development, functions as the world's most expansive operating system for survival. It is the cold chain, the literal refrigeration network that allows a vaccine manufactured in Belgium to remain viable in a 40°C village in South Sudan. It is the technical expertise that designs irrigation systems in the Mekong Delta to prevent regional famine. USAID does not just provide food, it provides the infrastructure that prevents state collapse. When a system can no longer provide clean water or basic disease prevention, the social contract dissolves. USAID acts as a dampener on volatility. It is the maintenance crew for the world's most fragile zones. If the maintenance stops, the wear and tear of reality begins to accelerate.
Chapter 3. What the WHO coordinates. If USAID is the muscle and bone of the system, the World Health Organization is the nervous system. The WHO does not rule countries, it connects them. Think of it as the world's air traffic control for pathogens. Every day, thousands of data points on flu strains, bacterial mutations, and waterborne toxins flow through this central hub. This allows for standardization. Because of this network, a doctor in Japan and a researcher in Brazil speak the same biological language. Without this coordination, we return to a fragmented world, a world where every nation has its own standards, its own testing protocols, and its own blind spots. In a system of global travel, a blind spot in one region is a threat to every airport on Earth. Coordination is not a luxury, it is the only way to manage a planet that moves at the speed of a jet engine.
Chapter 4. If funding stops, immediate effects. When the funding stops, the silence is immediate. Clinics that were the only source of medicine for a 100-mile radius close their doors, not in months, but in weeks. The orders for vaccines are canceled. The cold chain breaks. The refrigeration shuts off. Millions of doses of biological security become waste. Early warning systems for the next pandemic, The labs that scan for the next one simply stop reporting. The lights go out in the watchtower.
In Chapter 5, Second-Order Effects. In complex systems, the direct effect is rarely the most dangerous one. It is the second-order effect, the ripple. When a malaria program in a tropical region fails, people do not just get sick. Productivity drops, farmers cannot harvest, food prices rise. This creates a feedback loop of poverty. When poverty reaches a breaking point, people move. Mass migration is often the final symptom of a failed health and food system. If you stop a disease at its source, people stay home. If the disease returns or the food runs out, the border becomes the only hope for survival. Furthermore, we face the risk of evolutionary pressure. When you partially fund a health system and then abruptly stop, you create the perfect environment for drug-resistant superbugs. You haven't just lost a battle, you've trained the enemy to be stronger. The biggest effects arrive later, and they arrive with interest.
Chapter 6: Impact on the United States. There is a common misconception that foreign aid stays foreign. In a globalized economy, this is a physical impossibility. When U.S. funding retreats, soft power evaporates. This is the influence that allows for favorable trade deals, military cooperation, and intelligence sharing. When the U.S. leaves the room, that chair does not stay empty. Other powers, with different values and different demands, will fill it. But the most direct impact is biological. America's first line of defense against a pandemic isn't the CDC in Atlanta, it's a field clinic in a remote province overseas. If that clinic closes, the defense is gone. The cost of responding to a crisis at home is 100 times the cost of preventing it abroad. Cuts abroad rarely stay abroad. Chapter 7: Can others replace the U.S.? There is often hope that philanthropy or other nations will step in. While NGOs like the Gates Foundation do incredible work, they are not nation-states. They do not have the logistical weight of the U.S. military or the diplomatic reach of the State Department. Scale matters. You cannot replace a $30 billion infrastructure with a $1 billion donation. Systems of this size have inertia. Once they stop moving, the energy required to restart them is exponentially higher than the energy required to keep them running. Large systems cannot be replaced quickly, and in a crisis, time is the only currency you cannot print more of.
Chapter 8: Neutral Close. This is not a moral argument. This is not about the goodness of aid. This is a systems analysis. If you remove the anchor, the ship drifts. If you remove the pillar, the roof sags. Every action in a complex system has a cost. The question is not whether we can afford to stay. The question is whether we can afford the consequences of leaving.
Thank you for listening during your work hour. Stay focused and stay informed.